Now, last week of Parliament for the year is coming up. The screaming will continue in earnest. So, let's talk about some of the things that are worth noting about what might be a very big week in Australian politics. It could all, of course, crumble and come to nothing, but some of the rumours, some of the swirl, but of course this is the last opportunity to make some changes. Leadership-wise, when it comes to Each Way Albo and even potentially the Nats is what we're hearing about in the next little while. So, meet me over at camera 2. Now, these are the issues that are going to be boiling away this week in Australia, and of course we've got the front row seat. We're not going anywhere for a little while to come. We're here to make sure that we deliver the last line of common sense each and every last line of defence for common sense each and every night. So let's have a look here. So, are Rebel Nationals MPs going to have another bite at Michael McCormack? Such is the speculation in amongst some of the Canberra Press Gallery set. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But also worth noting in all of this too is that, remember, the National Party is part of a coalition government that is up in front 51-49, but there are some local issues at the New South Wales level alone, of course, with the Shooters and One Nation starting to eat into their standings there. So wait and watch this space. I don't know if we've got the full graphic here, but it'd be nice to have it on the telly because apparently this being the last week of Parliament, of course, means there can be a killing season. This is when potentially people all line up and make that move on a political leader. So if the Nationals isn't McCormack, but for the Labor Party, is it going to be Each Way Albo? Now remember, thanks to the gift of Karen Rudd, Labor is essentially stuck with this bloke until they can get 60%, repeat 60%, not 60 votes, but 60% of caucus to roll him. Now, of course, they need 50 plus 1 to change the rules. But that, of course, will upset the man who we know watches this program and others with a fine-tooth comb and searches for whatever the heck it is that he thinks is there to be seen, but we'll wait and we'll see in the next little while. Also, tomorrow we expect to get the report about what ICAC is going to recommend potentially in the case of Gladys Berejiklian. Now, whether she, either knowingly, unknowingly, accidentally, intentionally, all of that, was on the wrong side of some of the ICAC rules in relation to her former partner, Daryl Maguire. Apparently we will hear about that on Monday. If it's adverse, there might be a race to become the next New South Wales Premier. Who would be in the driver's seat? Well, Matt Keane is the bloke who is in charge of the left faction of the party. Dominic Perrottet is the Conservative side of things. And at this stage, we understand that it would be Perrottet with Keane in a rather significant position after screwing over people when it comes to the issues in and around electricity and energy in the past few days. And finally, is Summer going to deliver us a massive problem or massive change to Victorian politics? Who knows, but some speculation from backyard or backroom Baz or whatever he's called in the Sunday Herald Sun today, that potentially trucking magnate and billionaire Lindsay Fox might be finding a way for Daniel Andrews to have a business life post-politics. I assume it's not going to be driving freight from Sydney to Melbourne, but we'll see. Anyway, these are all the possibilities of what could be the next very big few days ahead. Now, fingers crossed, the Commodore 64, I'll double-check, is it working? Because I need to show you some stuff here for the rest of the show, so let's get to this now. As you know, there are fires that are burning right now on Fraser Island. Those fires have been burning on Fraser Island and have been doing so since October. But today, the message has started coming through that there is now a threat to all lives in parts of the island, so move. Save yourself. Get moving and get moving as soon as possible. Now, I don't doubt that that is the situation tonight, and I hope that everyone watching follows the emergency advice. But remember, the Queensland government back in October made quite a fuss that they now have their own water-bombing aircraft, the ones that are able to drop thousands of litres of water or that pink foam on fires that are just in Queensland. Now, this is a World Heritage listed site. A World Heritage listed site that for some reason they have not been water bombing in the way that you would expect. In fact, this particular water bombing aircraft, which is currently on lease from the Canadians, well, guess what? It is not being used. I don't know why it is not being used. Apparently, the fire officials have said that there is not a reason to use it right now. Well, I repeat, there is a World Heritage listed nature preserve that is currently on fire and has been on fire since October. And as we showed you last week, there was an absurdity that water bombing wasn't taking place there, even with the helicopters that would normally fly over, dip in, get a bucket of water and drop it. But that aircraft's not being used. Instead, apparently, the fire is unable to use these water bombing devices out of cultural concerns. Cultural concerns? We told you this last week. Well, we're talking about an area that is quite significant. About 100 freshwater lakes are currently on Fraser Island, but environmental officials say no, you can't dip in and get the water from these to put out the fire that would destroy the rest of the island because, and I quote, there are pest fish, insects and seeds and plants which would be transferred by water bombing, and that could be catastrophic for the natural ecological balance. What do you think, balance of the island? What do you think a fire is doing right now? One that's been going on since October, one that they are not using the tools to get on top of. This is a spectacular part of Australia. Why wouldn't you throw everything at it in October or November? They're not even throwing everything at it in the first week of December. Instead, people are being told to run for their lives. The incompetence is quite staggering.